And as far as the Russell Wilson to Cleveland thing goes, I also think that's a posturing move. I think Cleveland will do that. I think they'll meet with him because maybe they think they can get a bargain like the Steelers got last year, but ultimately I think he's doing that to try to put pressure on the Steelers to bring him back.
Yeah, there's a lot of unknown. We have a lot of Twitter activity here. You hit us up at KD Pomp, at the Pony Express. Jay Fowles, F-O-U-Z, if I'm saying that wrong, Jay, I apologize, but he says, what's the Steelers' next move if they don't get Rodgers? To me, it's fall back Wilson, unless he signs someone else, but there could be a trade. You know, I think we're sitting here talking about all these possibilities. I never thought we'd get this deep into this situation, but there could be a trade for someone else. Kirk Cousins' name's been mentioned quite a bit. Would you think that would be a good move for the Steelers?
So the Falcons are going to pay him $27.5 million this year, and all that money is guaranteed. So I wonder if it's a situation again where if he got released by the Falcons, would Kirk Cousins want to play for more than $27.5 million, Bob? Meaning, let's say he thinks he's a $35 million quarterback. Well, then the Falcons would pay him $27.5, and the Steelers would only pay him $7.5. The Falcons would be on the hook for the rest of it. So in that situation, yes, I would take Kirk Cousins. It wouldn't be as extreme as the Broncos paying $35 million and the Steelers paying him the vet minimum, but it would be close. And I don't think that Kirk Cousins is a long-term solution either. But think about this. If people are using the logic with Rodgers in a good way, that a second year removed from Achilles surgery, he's going to be a better quarterback, then the same thing should apply to Kirk Cousins because he did that 2 years ago in Minnesota. So he's younger than Rodgers. I think he's still a Band-Aid quarterback. But, Bob, he's a much cheaper Band-Aid quarterback, and that's why I would be more interested in doing that. I think he's got more left in the tank.
No, I would agree with that. I definitely do because I do think it's cheaper, and I looked in those numbers just like you did. So if I'm going to do that, I suppose I would, but I think it's still all predicated on whatever Rodgers does and whatever his timeline is. One more of these tweets here, and this is from Greg Finley. You know Greg Finley up at your place there, and he tweets in, what quarterback solution makes you say, I can support this and think they can compete? Is there any one of these guys we've mentioned that you think they can compete? And I guess you'd have to define compete. Does that mean getting to the playoffs, winning a playoff game?
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. I think they can get to the playoffs with a lot of these guys. Get to the playoffs, get to 9 wins or 10 wins. I mean, I don't think it's out of the question that Mason Rudolph could come here and do that, actually. But it's that next hump, which has been so hard for them to get over, that I don't believe in them being able to do with these guys. Why would I say Kirk Cousins can do that when he's only won one playoff game in his entire career and he's in his late 30s? Why would I say that about Aaron Rodgers when he hasn't won a playoff game and not quite as long as the Steelers, but close? So his last playoff win was over the Rams, and Jared Goff, I think, had to come into that game in relief, actually, because he was the backup Rams quarterback at the time. John Wolford was their starter. So, yeah, I'm just not – it's a good question by Greg. He's actually right down the hall here right now. I can go bring him on set if you want. But, no, I don't think that there's a clear – there's not an answer, Bob, that makes me feel good about them breaking their playoff win drought.
We have a lot coming up here. We want to get your phone calls in as well. It's 412-575-2600. We're in March Madness week. We'll try to talk a little bit of that and anything else you want to talk about. By the way, Mac Jones signs with the San Francisco 49ers. I don't know that it's for that much money. I'm going to check that. I think it's like 2 years, $7 million, whatever the case. Quarterbacks will be moving left and right. We'll talk about it when we come back right here on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. All right. Daily Mail US has the tweet of the night provided by Xfinity Mobile. And there you see Aaron Rodgers caught strolling along a beach, pondering his next move. Who knows? He could be in a hut somewhere in the darkness. There could be a lot of things going on there.
Bob, I wanted to bring up something just dawned on me. A light bulb went on when you brought up the trade idea for a quarterback. Mm-hmm. I'm going to throw a name out there that I don't think has been put out there yet. And this guy got traded last year. And I thought he went in for this team and played well as a backup. And we know that there was interest from the Steelers from that draft. And I'm talking about Malik Willis. Malik Willis is a very mobile quarterback, and he looked left for dead in Tennessee. And then he went to Green Bay, and when Jordan Love got hurt in that first game in Brazil, I actually thought Tennessee's offense in the first half of the season looked better with Malik Willis than it did with Jordan Love. And just like Kenny Pickett just got flipped to be potentially a starter in Cleveland, we'll see, what would the Steelers have to give up to kick the tires on Malik Willis again? I would be interested in that as a buy low candidate to be their quarterback. You make a little noise there, but he is mobile, and he does have a good arm. And
I know.
You can't deny the fact that he played well last year for the Packers.
He did when he got in there, but I haven't seen enough of him to make him think he could. That's the way they should go. Although it's an interesting thought. We have another one here, and this one comes to us from John Williams. He says, "Why not bring in Rudolph? Fix the defensive line with quality, not overpay for 2 old quarterbacks. Use this as a bridge year and grab QB1 in 2026." I thought that was going to be how they would do it, but with Justin Fields as your quarterback. So I got a lot of calls here, Pony. Let's get right to them. We'll begin with John in Latrobe, Pennsylvania. He's first up tonight. What's going on, John?
Oh, not too much. How are you guys doing?
Good, thanks.
Yeah, I would say, I called about Mason Rudolph, and I was even thinking when he was, I figured they should have played him over there in the that last playoff game over Ben Roethlisberger, the Cleveland game. So I don't understand, they traded him away, and I think, with the money wise, I think you should bring him in. Number one, I think these are all going to be former Steelers. Go with.
You would agree with John Williams, who said that on Twitter. So thank you for the call. I don't think it's beyond the possibility that Mason Rudolph's on this roster next year. I just don't know if he's going to be the starter. And if he is, you're right. With a team, that has some big pieces and big places now, he throws a good deep ball too. And if it's a deep ball they're looking for, then he would fit that bill, going deep to DK Metcalf.
And Pickens got him the ball, and he got Pickens the ball, I should say, when he went in for Kenny, and he can connect with DK Metcalf, who runs a ton of go routes, more than any wide receiver in the league. I just can't let this slip. The idea, not to relitigate things from 5 years ago, but come on, you're saying in 2020 that the Steelers should have started Mason Rudolph over Ben in that home playoff game against the Browns? I get it, they got down 28-0, but come on, Bob. That's a ridiculous take.
Oh, I agree. That's why I didn't want to comment on it. I didn't think that at all. But as far as him playing well when he was given a chance here, I think that's legit. He did it down the stretch, and that led to Kenny Pickett's demise here. So that whole thing played out right in front of us. Let's go back to the lines. We got Bill and Butler. Hello, Bill. How are you?
Fine. And I wouldn't take Rodgers for $2 million a year. I would take any one of the top 5 quarterbacks in college.
Well, I mean, first of all, they may not be in a position to do that, okay? I also think the Steelers may have thought this was going to be a little cheaper than some of the reports we see here, Pony. I mean, we're talking 2 years, $90 million, $45. It'd be a 1-year deal most likely for guaranteed, whatever that may be. But I don't think they thought that price would get that high. Maybe that's part of the delay here.
That's what Mike Florio has reported. Kirk Cousins, who we brought up before, at least I did, making $45 million a year in Atlanta. Is it possible that Rodgers looks at the 28 touchdowns he threw last year and says, even at 41 years old, I'm worth every penny, just as many pennies, as a matter of fact, as Kirk Cousins? I think it is. I don't think that that's a crazy take. I mean, I wouldn't give it to him, but when you look at other old quarterbacks and the amount of money they're making, Bob, he might think to himself, and his agent, more importantly, might think, my client's not worth any less than this guy. So the salary cap went up. Things are more expensive these days. The starting price is $45 million a year. That could be.
Yeah, I mean,
seriously.
It could be. No, and he has every reason to think that based on, especially down the stretch, how he performed. I realize there were some bad defenses he went against, but if you're him, you make the case and see where it takes you. But it will be interesting. Let me throw this out as a hypothetical for you. I think the Steelers really do plan to draft a quarterback here, but I don't think it's at this point this year. However, I still think next year is more of a realistic because they're going to have some opportunity maybe to move up in the first round wherever they are. But let's say that a couple of these guys drop farther than you think. I know Joe's high on Jackson Dart. He is moving up the charts, and legitimately I heard Dan Orlovsky to say that he won't get out of the first round. If you had a chance to do it with him specifically, or if a guy like Shedeur Sanders should fall far enough, and we've seen this before. Would you take any of those guys?
I take Sanders. I watched Sanders at Colorado a lot just because Dion was such a lightning rod coach, and I didn't think their offensive line was any good. Their weapons were obviously Hunter won the Heisman, and Joe Horn's kid is a really good receiver too, who's probably going to get drafted. But their line was pathetic, and I thought Sanders, and this is going to maybe be a strange comparison for people, he reminded me a lot of Matt Ryan as far as pocket presence, poise, getting the ball downfield, arm doesn't blow you away, but makes the right decisions. So I would do that at 21. I would not take Jackson Dart with the 21st pick. That's not me trying to start a fight with Starkey. I would take him in the 3rd round, or I would consider trading back into the 2nd round to take him. But I would not use the 21st overall pick on Dart. My personal preference, I'm not saying I'm a Jackson Dart expert, but to me, he reminds me of like a bigger Gardner Minshew than a guy that is going to be like the Steelers' answer at quarterback. But you never know with these guys, Bob.
No, you never know.
And so that's why I would not have a problem taking one a little bit later in the draft.
Right, I agree with that. I wouldn't be against it later, not in the 1st round. I still think they have too many defensive needs on the line there, and cornerback. There are a lot of people you can look at and say they need even wide receiving help. They get another wide receiver.
And did Aaron Rodgers keep them from filling some of those holes, Bob? I think he did.
Oh, I
think
there's
the
any
potential
question.
cost of Aaron Rodgers did.
If they had this thing wrapped up, they could have gone into this with some money available. So the 2 guys who went yesterday, Allen and Hargrave, I mean, they may have been able to get one of those guys and then draft more. So all of this comes together. Let's go back to the lines here, Pony. We got Rick and Pitt Karen, who joins us right now. Hey, Rick.
Hey, Bob. How you guys doing tonight?
Good, thanks.
Hey there.
I think what the Steelers need to do is that they need Aaron Rodgers to take a hike because he's making a fool out of him.
All right, well, he's probably somewhere in the woods taking a hike right now, for all we know.
He's actually on the beach. I don't know if you've seen the picture that's gone viral in the
we put
tabloids.
The tweet of the night there, on the beach.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that real? I have to ask that question about everything
I think
these
so.
days, because you never know what you're going to get with the AI possibilities. Let's go to Paul in Salzburg. Paul, you're on.
Yeah, Bob. Hey, I just wanted to say one thing tonight. Rodgers is not worth $90 million over 2 years, or what the hell ever they're going to pay him.
All right. How about Nate in Oakland? See what he has to say before we go to a break. Nate, go ahead.
Hi, I'm here.
All right, you're on the air. Go ahead, Nate.
I think the Steelers have 2 good options. I don't think we're going to be able to pick up anyone now to win a playoff game this season, to be honest. So honestly, I think our best bet is just have tank this year, so we can get a high draft pick in the next year, so we don't have to trade up.
They may do that on their own, but I really, to say they're not going to be, last year a lot of people didn't think they finished 2nd in the division ahead of Cincinnati. Strange things happen in the NFL, and I think they are. I agree with your assessment. They could get there with any of these guys if they do the right thing on offense. And DK Metcalf and I think they're going to draft another receiver. They're going to have a much deeper receiving core than they did this time last year, and I think that was a big weakness for them last year.
It all still depends on what Pickens does, and I'm still waiting for that ticking time bomb to go off here and for him to request a trade out of Pittsburgh now that he knows the writing is on the wall, that he's not going to get a long-term deal here because of the amount of money they wrapped up in DK Metcalf, which, Bob, on its own is actually a very polarizing topic that we still haven't really even dug into that much because of all the quarterback speculation, but they did something unprecedented. They gave out $150 million to a guy who came from outside the organization. I mean, that's
right.
Even more. That's even crazier than when they gave up a first-round pick for Minka. And here we are with DK Metcalf, and they still don't have a guy to throw the ball to him, other than Skylar Thompson.
But listen, I agree. But the thing is, he's such an intriguing, and he's only 27 years old. You'd like to get those kind of guys because for 5 years, he still could be at the very top of his game. And Pickens is much younger. But it just depends on what he does, what they will do with him, and what his demands, or will he be willing to just come in and do what he has to do to have a good year and then take it from there? We'll talk about that when we come back. We also have a tweet here from Ryan Zedek, and I'll let you ponder this. Andrew, will West Virginia make the tournament considering that at-large teams with less than 20 wins have a hard time qualifying? That's when we come back. We're right here on the Nightly Sports Call.